Princess Diana knew how to disappear. That may sound impossible now. The most photographed woman in the world, followed by cameras, headlines, gossip, and endless speculation. A face recognized across continents, a smile printed on magazines, a private pain turned into public entertainment. And yet there were nights when she wanted only one impossible luxury: to be unnoticed, to sit in a dark room where no one expected anything from her, to hear music without symbolism attached to it, to laugh without tomorrow's headlines describing how she laughed, why she laughed, and what it supposedly meant, to be no one for a few hours. And one difficult night in London, she tried. She chose a Genesis concert, not as a princess, not as a symbol, not as the wounded half of a royal marriage everyone felt entitled to dissect, just as a tired woman who needed somewhere to breathe. By then, Diana's life had become a public battlefield. Her marriage to King Charles III was cracking beneath years of silence, distance, and humiliation. Every movement was analyzed. Every glance became commentary. Every smile became speculation. Even pain had become performance. People often assume privilege protects a person from loneliness. It does not. Sometimes it only decorates it. Palaces can be lonely places. So can fame. So can rooms full of people who know your title but not your heart. That evening, Diana reportedly told a trusted friend she wanted to go somewhere no one expected, somewhere loud enough to drown thought, somewhere ordinary enough to feel extraordinary, somewhere human. Music had always reached places words could not. It could hold sadness without interrogating it. It could turn anger into rhythm. It could make grief feel shared instead of private. And there was something about Phil Collins. Phil did not sing like royalty lived. He sang like real people hurt: divorce, regret, anger, loss, the ache of being misunderstood, the private collapse hidden behind public composure. He put emotional truth into songs millions recognized as their own. Diana recognized it too, so a plan was made quietly. No official escort, no public schedule, no press office approval, no grand arrival. A simple car, modest clothing, lowered head, only a tiny circle who knew. She arrived through a side entrance at a London venue where Genesis was preparing to play. Inside, the arena pulsed with anticipation. Fans laughed in aisles, people bought drinks, programs rustled, couples argued over seat numbers, friends shouted over rows, the ordinary chaos of thousands gathering for joy. It was gloriously normal. That alone felt healing. Diana wore a dark coat and kept her posture small. Strange for a woman the world knew for presence, but tonight she wanted absence. She was seated discreetly in a private but not extravagant section where she could watch without drawing attention. Enough privacy to relax, enough distance to feel part of the crowd. Then the lights went down. The roar began. The stage glowed to life. Instruments shone under white beams. The opening notes surged across the arena like weather rolling over water. Phil walked on stage to thunderous applause. The drums gleamed. The band took their places. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, Diana smiled without effort. Not the diplomatic smile, not the practiced smile, not the smile used to reassure strangers she was fine. A real one. Song after song rolled through the room, memory, energy, rhythm, release. Around her, strangers sang together, men who had loved these songs for decades, women who knew every lyric, teenagers pulled there by parents, couples swaying badly but happily. No one asked anything from her. No one studied her face. No one needed her to represent anything. She was simply another person in the dark. Sometimes that is the rarest freedom of all. Midway through the show, she even laughed at something said between songs. She leaned back. Her shoulders softened. For a few minutes, she looked less like a hunted icon and more like a woman remembering herself. Then something changed. A man 2 rows over had noticed her profile, then another. Then whispers began to travel the way whispers always do. Fast, sharp, hungry. Is that her? It can't be. It is. Heads turned one by one, then all at once. People started looking longer than polite people should. A few stood. Someone moved closer. Someone else tried to peer around security. A woman pointed discreetly, which is another form of pointing loudly. The old prison was rebuilding itself. Diana's shoulders tightened. Her breathing shortened. She lowered her eyes. The music was still playing, but the refuge was slipping away. This was the danger of fame many never understand. You can be surrounded by thousands and still have nowhere to hide. You can be loved publicly and cornered privately. You can be admired by strangers and denied simple peace. Security exchanged glances. They knew the shift in atmosphere. Curiosity can become frenzy in seconds, and frenzy around someone like Diana was never harmless. On stage, Phil Collins noticed movement in a section that should have been still. He had spent years reading crowds. Rhythm teaches awareness. Touring teaches instinct. Fame teaches you how quickly rooms change temperature. He could sense when attention had moved away from the music. Between songs, he stepped to the microphone. "London," he said, smiling lightly. "I know we're all curious people." Laughter rippled through the arena. It bought him a second. Then he continued. "But tonight, let's give everyone in this room the same gift." The arena quieted. He looked out slowly across the crowd. A little space to be human. The room stilled completely. No names were spoken. No spotlight moved. No one was embarrassed directly. Yet everyone understood. That is the difference between intelligence and performance. Phil did not expose her to protect her. He protected her by refusing to expose her. Then he turned, counted the band in, and began a softer song. The mood changed like weather breaking. People faced forward again. The crowd sang. The tension dissolved. The room remembered why it had come. And in the half-dark, Diana exhaled. Sometimes help does not arrive dramatically. Sometimes it comes as tact, as dignity, as someone powerful choosing not to use power for themselves. Phil never pointed her out, never made a spectacle of kindness, never tried to turn compassion into applause. He restored anonymity the only way possible, by reminding the room to behave better. Diana listened differently after that. The songs now felt less like escape and more like company. There is a unique comfort in being understood by someone who asks nothing in return. By the final encore, she was standing with everyone else, clapping, laughing, alive in a way public life had nearly starved. She even sang along to lines she knew, softly enough for no one to hear, loudly enough for herself to feel. When the show ended, arrangements were made for her to leave quietly. Corridors cleared, doors timed, security moved with practiced calm. But before she reached the car, a message arrived backstage.
"Mr. Collins hopes you enjoyed the evening."
She paused, then smiled.
"Tell him,"
she said,
"I enjoyed the kindness more."
Whether those were the exact words almost does not matter, because they feel true. Some stories say Phil later sent flowers. Others say nothing further happened at all. Some say they exchanged thanks through mutual friends. Others insist the moment ended there. That part is small, because what lasted was not the aftermath. It was the moment. A woman drowning in public attention had reached for one ordinary night. When that night began to collapse, someone understood without forcing her pain into entertainment. That mattered. People often remember Princess Diana in extremes: glamour or tragedy, icon or victim, beauty or sorrow. But she was also something simpler and more relatable. A person trying to get through hard days, trying to feel normal, trying to breathe, trying to remember that life existed outside headlines. And Phil Collins, often remembered for fame and heartbreak songs, revealed another side too. Not the star, not the legend, not the celebrity, the observer, the man who knew that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is lower the spotlight. Years later, stories like this survive because they contain a truth bigger than celebrity. Everyone has had a night they badly needed, a place they hoped would heal them, a room where they wanted to forget themselves, a song they hoped would carry something heavy for a little while. And everyone knows the fear of that peace being interrupted. What Diana found at that concert was not just music, it was brief shelter. What Phil offered was not rescue in the grand sense, it was respect. And respect given at the right moment can feel like salvation. Perhaps that is why the story still lingers, because beneath the names, titles, fame, and mythology, it is about something deeply human. A hurting woman slipped into the dark to hear songs. A man on stage noticed, and instead of exposing her, he helped her disappear again.